So this last weekend, I went with my trusty dog Rocky to do some more filling in of gaps on some of the lines that we've been mapping. And I went to these locations that are indicated on this map, just in and around the Brno area, to be honest, looking to just fill in some gaps. However, what I found was a complete surprise. I started out at this location where I wasn't really expecting to find anything but the new north-south Type 4 line, and I ended up finding another Type 4 line which basically just ran along the path. So along the path behind me, the bike path, there are two closely spaced 90 pace wide lines running down the more or less the entire length, because the path is following the line, so to speak. And about 100 yards behind me, another Type 4 pair of energy lines crosses. There's nothing to be seen, but I'm going to go and investigate, see if I can find anything in that area now. This is the area where I dowsed the two lines crossing, or rather the four lines crossing. So should be an energy vortex here. I did feel something, and there were some indications in the area, but there was nothing special, as I will explain in a minute. So I'm stood in the vortex of these two Type 4 pairs. According to the sticks and according to best calculation of mapping, there's nothing here. There does seem to be a lot of mole activity in this particular spot. There is something suspicious over there that I just videoed. I don't know what it is, some kind of a well perhaps. But I can say with certainty that there is an atmosphere. There is an energy here. It's making the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. So definitely there is something here. I can feel it. I also see lots of butterflies. I've been trying to capture them on video, but the whole time I've been mapping and dowsing these lines, had lots of butterflies flying around, some pretty unusual ones as well, with green tipped wings that I've never seen before. So, something here. I'll have to dig into the history of this area, see if there's anything in the past. You never know. The next morning I headed out to another location close to Brno to fill in some gaps, as I said, on the Templar line, and found these absolutely stunning views of Brno Lake and Brno, which you can see nestling in the distance between the hills. Quite stunning views. I'm actually stood in the negative Mokosh line, and I did find the Perun line along with several other 25 pace wide and assorted lines on a beautiful path through the forest over the top of the hill. From here the Templar line runs down towards Brno Lake, then parallels it for some distance before heading back to U3 Kriju. This is Rocky. He had fun too. From here I headed to the village of Chebin, tracking these Type 4 lines, and to my utter surprise found, of course, this children's playground on one of the lines, the positive one, and then this well on the negative line, which is pretty typical for what we find with these lines in general. The lines head from where I'm standing across through the village and off to the right of that limestone quarry, which has defaced the environment. Again, I found another crossing of two sets of lines, and this seemed to be the area of the vortex. Someone, interestingly, had posted this arrow to make sure I found it, which I found quite humorous. And nearby I found this, shall we say, anomaly in the landscape. Perhaps it was a limestone quarry, perhaps it was a limestone kiln, perhaps it was a castle, but it's pretty obvious to the eye that this area is not in its natural state, and it is pretty close to the vortex of these two lines. So perhaps in history there was something at the vortex of these two lines. I've looked on Google and I can find nothing of any significance, but Czech history isn't as good as British history. and a lot was not written down, and many of the records have been lost. I then headed finally to Sentitsa to track the Templar line, but again, not only did I find the Templar line, or rather the Perun line, which is just starting at that tree and goes through this cross, but also the strange east-west line nearby. And so this is now how things look with regards to Type 4 lines. We've got the Templar line going east-west, we've got what looks to be a north-south oriented line, and then we have this rather strange line which seems to parallel the Templar line, forming a sort of triangle in the middle. So things are getting complicated, and there's a lot more work to be done. Please follow us on www.earthmagicbrno.com, or indeed on this YouTube channel, as we map out these lines, discover new mysteries, new synchronicities, and basically have a good time. Thank you. Some gaps